Everybody in this place is standing. 45,299. Sabathia sets. Here it is. Swinging a bouncer. Double play ball. JJ second. Relay. Double play. Hey, they win. Oh, what a finish. CC Sabathia being mobbed by his teammates. Wow, what a game. What a performance. Sabathia with the season on the line on 3 days rest stops the Chicago Cubs.
Great moment in Brewers franchise history and the call by Bob Uecker back in 2008. We are eulogizing and celebrating the career of Bob, and among his very closest friends in the world, Commissioner Bud Selig, who had this statement on Bob's passing this morning. I'm heartbroken with the loss of my dear lifelong friend, Bob Uecker. I can't begin to describe how much he meant to me, let alone what his loss is for the Brewers fans, the state of Wisconsin, and countless others. Bob had the easiest way of making others feel at ease, share a laugh, and always left people feeling a little better. Nobody was his equal. I'm so grateful that Bob's friendship was a constant presence throughout most of my life. For over 50 years, rarely did a day pass where we missed a conversation, a sharing of stories, and countless laughs that cannot be replaced and is a giant loss, but I'm lucky to have experienced that kind of enduring friendship. And finally, Commissioner Selig said, Sue and I, his wife, are thinking of Judy, Bob's wife, Bob's children, Sue Ann and Bob Jr., and all of Bob's family during what is a difficult time for all of us. Welcome back inside with Tom Verducci, Matt Vasgersian, reacting to the sad passing, the sad news of Bob Uecker, who left us at the age of 90 this morning after a prolonged illness. Among those in the local media that knew Bob very well, MLB.com's Adan McCalvy, who's been on the Brewers beat for over 20 years and who, like many, were close with Bob. Adam, thanks for the time under difficult circumstances. Sorry for the loss, and I'm sure Brewers fans are all very sad on this day. What was the first time that you met Ueck?
Geez, Matt, that's a great question. I mean, it had to be spring training 2001. I was MLB.com formed at the end of 2000. I was hired on February 12, 2001, and like a week later, I was in spring training. And you know, you remember Matt being the lead TV guy at that time. Ueck would be in Tony Migliaccio's office in the clubhouse at Old Maryvale every single morning and talking to the guys. And when you talk to Brewers players over the years, that's what they remember about Ueck. And this goes back to Molitor and Yount, and even earlier. He was always one of the guys, and it was a unique relationship between a broadcaster and a team that is really rare in today's game, and it's rare in any era, even for the greats, you know, back Vin Scully and beyond. He was one of the guys, and that was the most special thing. And, you know, you're looking at Pat Murphy there with his arm around Ueck. They held that celebration when the Brewers clinched the postseason. This was a, you know, unexpected postseason team this year. It was a young Brewers team, new manager, lots of changes. They played great all year, and they held that celebration until Bob could get down there and pop champagne. And he really had to grind to get through this. This was 2024 was a tough season for him health-wise, but he was on the air for that last game, and that was really cool. For fans to be able to hear his voice one last time, I think that was a special gift from the baseball gods.
Adam, we know that Ueck obviously became a big Hollywood star, became a huge national star as a broadcaster, and yet he is so associated with his hometown and the state of Wisconsin. Give us an idea. You're there, you know the area. What his impact was that he remained Milwaukee's own Bob Uecker.
Yeah, Tom, that you put it so perfectly. He was ours. I think that's how people look at it. You know, he did the Tonight Show 100 times and would crack up Johnny Carson. He hosted SNL. He hosted WrestleMania. He's in the WWE Hall of Fame, for gosh sakes. How many baseball broadcasters can say that? He was on Belvedere. He gave us Just a Bit Outside. He did all the Miller Lite ads with all the great athletes, and yet he was the guy everybody wanted to be around. But then he always came home. And my favorite part of the Uecker story is until I think 2021. The Screen Actors Guild always provided his health insurance, and then that changed, and he actually needed health insurance from the Brewers, so he had to like sign some paperwork. That's the first time he ever had any kind of contract. With Bud Selig, it was always like shake hands, and he would show up the first day of spring training, and it's like, I guess Uke's calling games this year again. And then when Mark Attanasio took over the team in the mid-2000s, it was the same kind of handshake deal. That's how Uke operated, because anytime he would go away to do Belvedere, to do Major League, to do the Tonight Show, he always came home to Milwaukee. This is where he grew up, and he always came back. And I think that's why the people here are so loyal to him, because he was so loyal to us.
And make no mistake, you know, he was treated as royalty around the ballpark. I can remember the county stadium days, Adam, as you can. There were exactly 2 parking spots in the stadium that were covered. One for Bud Selig, one for Bob Uecker. Sal Bando didn't park underneath. The former player and beloved general manager, Robin Yount, didn't park underneath back in the day. It was Uke that got that second spot next to Bud.
Well, but you know, but he was always so approachable. At the same time, you could walk into the radio booth. I mean, that got out of hand. They you know, probably Judy wishes fewer people would open that door of the radio booth and bother him all day. He was always very accessible. You know, one of my favorite, just little personal memories, I did a 50th anniversary Brewers book a couple of years ago, and it was like a November day, and I went in and met Uke because he would go into the ballpark every day and swim in the resistance pool. And he did this for years. I mean, deep into his 80s. He would go in there every single day, in season, off season, when he was in town, and swim. So I met him after one of his swims, and we did this interview for the thing, and he wanted a cup of coffee. And they had like cold brew coffee like on tap in the players' dining room. So he walks over, picks up a styrofoam cup, pours this coffee, who had been sitting in there for who knows how long. It's November at this point. Pops the thing in the microwave and microwaves this cup of coffee. So, you know, he was like, he was a good Milwaukee guy. He's not going to let this old coffee go to waste. He'll pop it in the microwave and it'll be fine. That sort of was my little glimpse inside Uke.
I'm glad you brought up the swimming, because he was a real aquanaut, man. I mean, on the road, in the hotels, like in the morning, there's Uke swimming. And he was a big, strong, broad-shouldered guy. That's why, you know, his failing health in the last few years was so tough for a lot of us to kind of see, because he was always such a picture of strength. He never lost his sense of humor, though. That stayed with him until the very end.
Yeah, you know what he never lost either? His passion for the game. And we saw those pictures, Adam, of him around the group of players, many generations younger than him. For a guy who signed in 1956, he never fell into that back in my day kind of mentality, right? What was it about Bob that enabled him to be as relevant and as fresh in his late 80s, covering a team with players in their 20s, to do it for that long like that?
Well, it's the old cliche that he knew how hard the game was. And to understand that, you just have to look at his MLB.com statistic page. He's a 200 hitter in the big leagues. The game was not easy for Bob. And he made a career out of joking about that, of course. But he took that into his broadcast career. He would tell you for real in the 90s, you know, Matt covered some tough years of Brewers baseball, and you told it like it was, but he never was too hard on the players, overly hard on the players. He remembered how difficult this game was. And for that, the players loved him. I mean, I've got my Uke t-shirt. They remember Matt in early 2000s, Sports Illustrated covered the Brewers. And they embedded on a road trip. And it was a terrible trip, like a winless, joyless trip. And the only good thing to come out of it was this picture of Uke in a Speedo that they put in Sports Illustrated. And Uke being Uke, just without even like, he would come up with these things so quick. He goes, oh yeah, my swimsuit issue. And the guys clipped this. And one day, a couple of years ago, they had a dress up when he took a rare road trip. After he'd curtailed his travel a little bit, they all dressed up like Uke, and Craig Counsell and some of the other folks had the T-shirts under their Bob Uecker Tonight Show patch jackets, which if you've seen him on the Tonight Show, you know what I mean. They love this guy. Gio Gonzalez once gifted him a pair of Air Uecker Nikes that had like the Jordan logo, but it was Uecker. And he absolutely loved that. He wore it on most days at the ballpark. He wore it all up until this year. He really loved the players. He understood how hard this game is, never wanted to embarrass anybody. And man, they really wanted to get him to a World Series again.
Yeah.
And they weren't able to do that. And that hurt everybody so bad. And you saw that in the clubhouse after Pete Alonso knocked the Brewers out with this heartbreaking homer in the wild card series. The clubhouse afterwards, it was sad the season was over, a special season. It was really sad because everybody was saying their goodbyes to Uke, and everybody knew how hard he had worked to get through that year. And they knew that nothing, you could take nothing for granted. And I think there were some really tearful goodbyes, knowing it might be the last time, and it ended up being the last time.
Adam, thanks for coming on and sharing your unique perspective and some stories of your relationship with Bob. We appreciate the time.
Yeah, too bad. Someday we'll talk about all the stories we can't talk about on TV.
Those are the good ones,
You
right?
got some.
Yeah.
Plesac's got some.
Oh,
I'm sure
God.
Sean Casey's got some.
There's no doubt. No doubt. One of one. Adan McCalvy joining us with his thoughts on the passing of Bob Uecker. We're going to go to break with this. Other players were also impacted, not just Brewers. And our colleague Adam Wainwright stumbled on this old pick this morning. There are a lot of legends in this one, posting this, and Uke's in there too with Stan the Man and some of the all-time greats in Cardinal history. We're going to take a break. Tom and I will return more on the passing of one of the all-timers, Bob Uecker, as we continue next.